Coming up on Training Camp Weekly, we put a bow on Vikings camp as joint practices with the Cardinals come to an end. We'll also break down the defensive line and look ahead to the final preseason game of the year. Welcome inside TCO Studios. I'm Tatum Everett alongside the cast of characters we had a couple of weeks ago. We got the band back together. We've got Vikings Entertainment Network's Gabe Henderson, Ahmad Hicks from Fox 9. It was a scorcher this week as the sun sets on training camp here at Vikings TCO PC. But you guys, as hot as it was, I feel like the elements were, there was definitely some heat at practice. Gabe, on day one when it was the hottest, what observations did you make that day that you liked?
The bees were swarming.
Oh, yeah, no,
but
not
so
good.
was the defense.
They were, yeah.
And Brian Flores had our defense running left and right, hitting quarterbacks. There was a three-play span where I saw Ivan Pace on the first play make an interception, and then the third play had a sack. So clearly, the young guys are starting to get it. And I put all that on Brian Flores, being able to have these creative blitzes, understand schemes, understand his strengths and weaknesses. I talked to Brian Flores earlier this week, and he says, this week we're just preparing against ourselves. Like, the offense, they don't mean anything to us right now. So we saw that, and just seeing those guys just swarm around the ball. If that's the case this year, I can see our defense being a top 15, top 20 defense.
Ooh, okay.
I like that.
What about you, Ahmad?
My biggest takeaway is when Jordan Addison is in this offense, man, it's 10 times more explosive.
Yeah.
We haven't been able to see TJ Hawkinson during camp because he's dealing with, ear infection and back stiffness. But when Addison is out there, he is a game changer, especially when he's lined up with KJ Osborne and Justin Jefferson. The back of the end zone catches, the toe tap catches on the sideline, and just being able to beat his defender that's in front of him. No matter if it's a number one corner, a safety, or a number three, he's going to beat whoever he's against. I think KOC is just dreaming of every play that he can get this guy involved in. He's going to lose a lot of sleep, I'm sure, when the season gets here.
Yeah, I heard someone say that Jordan Addison is the Justin Jefferson of this year's draft. And
Yes.
if you look at Justin Jefferson during that pandemic year when he got here in 2020, he was doing similar plays. I'm not going to be the person that says that.
I don't know. You may just have.
Hey, Jordan Addison for MVP.
Buy stock now. Fans, buy stock now. Buy stock.
We'll settle for Rookie of the Year, Offensive
take
Rookie
that,
of the Year.
Yes.
We'll take that. It is great to talk about how well these rookies are doing at camp. However, it is nice to see some veterans stepping up. So on day 2, Gabe, which was literally today as we're filming this, what were your impressions of some veterans?
Byron Murphy saved he saved his best 2 days of camp against his former team, the Arizona Cardinals. It looked like if you didn't know the game of football and you saw Byron Murphy today, you would have thought he was running routes for the Arizona Cardinals. He was basically shadowing those guys. I literally counted about 3 or 4 interceptions, not to mention the pass breakups. He's just a guy, he played with him the past 4 years, so he understands tendencies. But still, when you have a guy that understands tendencies, it's easy to get comfortable. He stepped his level of play up, and just seeing him play the way he did, I had him on an interview earlier today with Buda Baker, and he basically said, all that Buda Baker taught me the past 4 years and in college, I'm putting that to my game this year. We all know Buda Baker's an all-pro safety. So if we get all-pro Byron Murphy here in purple, oh my gosh.
Coach Flores is going to be licking his chops like, right. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I think another guy that I noticed, not just today, but all throughout camp, Josh Metellus. He's doing everything to get on the field. He's essentially, a number 3 or a number 4 safety right now. That safety room is deep. I mean, we talked about that. But he's playing linebacker. He's playing safety. He's getting on the edge and blitzing off the side. I pulled him to the side the other day. I said, what is your role? He said, whatever Coach Flo wants me to do. He's like, versatility is key right now. And I'm going to do whatever I can to get on the field, special teams included. So I think they have an ace in that guy, and he's going to be a secret weapon on defense.
Yeah, I called him the Swiss Army knife of the defense right now.
Uh-huh.
Well, Kevin O'Connell also spoke to the media yesterday, although I heard him today talk to a group of fans after practice saying this was the most important time for this team. This day, the last day of joint practice was most important for the team. But yesterday, he did talk about the progress that this team has made throughout training camp.
Ideally, you'd love to get, not to go too down in the weeds in football, you'd love to get different overall front structures, maybe a 4 down front one time, maybe a 3 down front the other. Doesn't always work out that way. The good thing is we've had a good mixture of both with teams that play multiple fronts, kind of like we do. So we've gotten a lot of really good work, like the run game today. We hit some explosives in the play-pass game, and then ultimately today was about reps and by far our toughest environment of camp, with it being as warm as it was, and I thought our guys responded.
Well, those guys have definitely responded. It's been a long training camp. These days get extra long for the guys, and they've been looking really good out there. We like to highlight groups in particular on Training Camp Weekly, and this time around, it's going to be the defensive line. So let's take a look at the depth chart there. The starters, Dean Lowry, Khyiris Tonga, Harrison Phillips. Obviously, Tonga came alive. I think we were just talking about this before the show, Gabe. Towards the end of the season, Harrison Phillips back again. Then the backups there are listed. You know, you see some young talents there, guys that we're hoping to take big steps here this season. And with roster cut day looming, it's really going to be what can you do for us in this preseason game on Saturday. So, Gabe, as far as this defensive line, the interior, what do you hope to see from this group this season?
I just hope to see those guys hold up the offensive linemen. We haven't seen that happen in the past 4 years. This Minnesota Vikings defense hasn't been a top 15 defense in the run game or rush defense since 2019. So when you have a guy in Dean Lowry who played for the Green Bay Packers last year, that is a really good run defense. And then Harrison Phillips, who's coming in on his second year with the Minnesota Vikings, you expect those two guys to be able to let the linebackers run free, and Brian Asamoah and Jordan Hicks. The task isn't that hard. We don't want you going forward and rushing the quarterback. We just want you to hold those linemen, make the offensive linemen, make sure they don't come and block our linebackers, and then let Danielle Hunter and Marcus Davenport get the sacks and get to the quarterback. The task is simple, and that's pretty much all we ask for Harrison Phillips and Dean Lowry this year.
Yeah, especially, I mean, in this final preseason game, last week they gave up 281 yards versus the Titans. It looked like everybody was being able to run the football. So you just want to see somebody emerge because, as Gabe just said, we know all the starters. We know their task at hand this season. But who's going to be that guy that can spell them for 3 to 4 plays? Right. Because we know the defensive linemen, they can't go, all game long, especially with these offenses running 20 plays per drive. So the final preseason game, we don't know who the star is yet of the defensive line. And that's what you want to see. You want to make the coach say, we got to keep him on the 53-man roster. There's no way we're letting him hit the practice squad or waiver wire. So we don't know who that guy is yet, but that's what this final preseason game is for.
Well, I think one guy that has actually made a couple of plays is Sheldon Day. I saw him talking to Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah once practice ended on day one of joint practices with the Cardinals. And Sheldon Day is a guy at Notre Dame, been around to a few teams, but finally I feel like he's starting to find his home here. He's been in the backfield, got a sack against the Tennessee Titans last week in the preseason game. So if he's a guy that can come up and step up and put more pressure on Harrison Phillips and Dean Lowry, I believe that makes this team better. We all know the saying, you're only as good as your backups. And if your backup is doing what he's supposed to do, that makes the entire defense better. It starts in the trenches.
It does.
Sheldon Day, I believe he's a guy that's really making the case for himself right now.
The Vikings defense will go as that defensive line go.
Sure.
Not just the ones, but the twos as well.
No, I love that because if you can hold that line of scrimmage and you can get the defense forcing 3 and outs and the offense take over the game, maybe they'll be like the 98 team score. Sorry, we're on a 98 team kick, but 98 team
25-year anniversary.
25-year anniversry, they can score 30-plus points a game easily, which I know they were doing, but
that's the way
be on the good side of things, right?
Yeah,
be on the good side of things. Well, we hope that you've been enjoying those position battles out at camp. Here's some tweets that you guys have sent in for the hashtag Vikings Camp. The first one, I actually stole this one from our own personal Vikings Twitter. It's Royce Lewis visiting camp. Look at him, he has his finger out pointed like, man.
He was a fan that day.
He was a fan.
Not a professional athlete.
I love that the Vikings put a caption on it saying that he's one of us looking at Justin Jefferson right now, for sure.
We get it.
That's
we
JJ.
get it.
That's JJ, yep.
And then this one here from a nice young Vikings fan getting his ball signed by who else but Mr. Versatility, Josh Metellus. What a nice guy.
He's going to be a household name by the end of the
season.
season.
There you go.
Think so?
I think so.
Okay.
All right, you heard it here first. Well, thank you all to the fans who shared their photos and videos all throughout Vikings training camp. We really have loved the interaction and love seeing you guys out here at TCOPC. However, there is one more chance for this Vikings team to get some tape, to get their young guys out there to prove themselves. This is a huge week as we lead into roster cut day. So this final preseason game against the Cardinals, you guys, it's your last chance to also hear from Paul Allen, Pete Bursich on Fox 9, as well as KFAN as they call the game with Ben Lieber. What do you hope to see, Gabe, from this team on Saturday? And don't just say a preseason win.
We all want that.
Kevin O'Connell is 0-5.
It's been a while.
He's 0-5 in preseason games, but clearly those games don't matter. I just want to see this offensive line actually be able to get up to the second level and block the linebackers for the opposing team. We saw Ty Chandler be able to get a few runs at Seattle Seahawks game, and then Tennessee Titans game last week at home. he averages 2 yards a carry. So I want to be able to get a true evaluation on what our running backs can be. That doesn't start until the offensive linemen start to do their job. And I'm optimistic about that. This is going to be a really good test for our offensive line, but Ty Chandler, maybe he gets a rushing touchdown this week.
You know, it's funny you say that because everybody puts a lot of pressure on backup running backs in the preseason, but nobody points out the obvious that they don't really have the best offensive line in front of them. So it's hard to go out there when you got linemen meeting you in your face. What I want to see in this final preseason game is the quarterback room and the wide receiver room. Jordan Ta'amu and Jaren Hall. Who's going to be the number 3 quarterback that dresses out on game days? Are you going to make Kevin O'Connell want to say we have to dress this guy out just in case? I think they brought Jordan Ta'amu in to give Jaren Hall some competition because he knew his roster spot was safe. Now he has somebody to look over his shoulder like, all right, I got to get it going. And then that wide receiver room, we were just talking about that. Tristan Jackson, Jalen Naylor, Brandon Powell, Jalen Rager. So many guys vying for just 3 spots.
It's crazy.
Man, I do not want to be Keenan McCardell. Yeah, really though, because you're going to play Osborne, Addison, and Jefferson. So you're really just a good backup to step in and spell them. So I wouldn't want to be Keenan McCardell, Kwesi, or Kevin trying to decide that.
My eyes a lot on the special teams as well. Who's going to break out and make sure that they can't be a name that you can cut on roster day? Maybe they won't be a starter, but they make it through special teams, and that also, I think, plays into the wide receiver room a bit.
Yeah, Tristan Jackson is a gunner right now, and I talked to him, and he said he's trying to win that gunner position because he knows if he wins that, then he steps into a backup wide receiver role. But Najee Thompson is looking really good on the other side, so who knows?
Not to make this the Josh Matella show, but that's how he got his spot and continued to continue working his way in.
That's how 90% of these guys in the NFL, Lewis Seen also is going to get his way on special teams. But just talking to Matt Daniels earlier this week, I remember his initial press conference as my pens dropped, and he literally said, he's like, you know, I always pound my hand on the table for 5 guys each year. 5 guys that basically can get on the plane. And I asked him, I was like, all right, do you got 5 guys again this year? He's like, no, I only got 2 guys, 2 open spots for special teams this year. So we talked about 5 or 6 guys.
Literally.
Yikes.
We got 1 game to figure it out.
It's competitive.
Exactly.
It's a good problem to have for coaches.
It is, not too shabby, too shabby. It's funny to think how many spots, and then it's all one cut day, which is a little bit different than in years past. We're literally going from 90 to 53 on Tuesday. We'll have more for you on Tuesday, but for now, thank you so much to Ahmad Hicks and Gabe Henderson. We appreciate you tuning in each and every week to Training Camp Weekly. We've had so much fun with you guys out at camp, and now as we head into the final preseason game on Saturday against the Cardinals, we look forward to seeing you guys at US Bank Stadium as the regular season kicks off on September 10th.